Hey gamers, this is Liz Davidson from Beyond Solitaire, and today I'm going to be reviewing Lisboa, designed by Vital Lacerda and published by Eagle Gryphon Games. The main idea of Lisboa is that we are nobles who are helping to rebuild the city after a massive earthquake struck in 1755. Not only was the earthquake itself extremely damaging, but the fault line that caused it was under the ocean, which meant that after the earthquake, there was a tsunami, followed by several days of fires. So Lisbon was a real mess after this occurred. So it's our job to help fix the city. And of course, the person who fixes the city the most is going to get the most points, or in this case, wigs, which are the symbol for victory points in this game. Men of this time period, especially wealthy ones, had lots and lots of wigs. Wigs for every occasion. They were very fancy. And so of course, the best man will have the most wigs. So how do you actually go about fixing the city? Well, Lacerda jokes that this game is actually very simple because all you do is play a card, take an action, and then draw a card, which is more or less true. You're going to begin the game with a hand of cards. And these are the starter cards. And basically what will happen is you'll play one, you'll do the actions that you want to do associated with the card, and then you'll pick another card from one of these stacks and play will proceed. However, there's a lot of different things you can do with your cards. And all the actions center around which of these noble people you want to have dealings with on your turn. Manuel de Maya, the builder, is the one who's going to help you put officials out, which means that you can put your own people in these offices of other noblemen. So what that's going to do is it's going to force other players to pay more influence to get business done, which is awesome for you and annoying for them. You can go visit de Maya to get plans, which are what you need to build buildings, or you can actually do the building. So you want to put shops on these streets because that's how you score off of here for rebuilding the city, but also because you're going to want to produce the goods associated with those shops so you can sell them, make money, and build more stuff. So there are only 4 different types of goods in the game. So we have gold, cloth, books, and tools. As you produce and sell goods, their values will fluctuate. In other words, they're going to go down because right now prices are high. There's just been a disaster. But as supply starts to grow to meet demand, the prices of everything will go down. So timing when to produce and sell goods is key. The next person you can visit is our good friend, the Marquis de Pombal. He was a very famous and controversial figure in his time, and he took a lot of control over the rebuilding of Lisbon. So with him, you're going to be able to build a ship, which you use either to ship off your own goods and make money, or ship off other people's goods and get influence. It's good either way. You can use him to produce goods, so all those shops that you built will produce goods thanks to our friend Pombal. And he also gives you access to decrees, which are basically ways of scoring bonus points in the game. There's always a running market of potential decree cards that you could take, each of which gives you certain numbers of wigs for doing or having certain numbers of things in the game. And then of course we have our friend, the King Don Jose. He is basically there to help you with all the public functions. He doesn't want to get dirty, but he's going to come cut the ribbon when you make a public building. So the king is responsible for the cardinal track. Basically, the cardinal will move around this track and give you access to these bonus tiles that give you benefits in the game, or potentially points if you decide to trade them in. He'll impact the treasury, and he'll cause people to collect influence. The next thing that the king can do for you is help you get favor. As you can see, there are these amazing nobles that you want to do a lot with, and maybe you don't have the cards, maybe you want to take an action right now. Having some favor tokens in your player board, which I'll show you in a moment, is great because that way you can take a follow action in the game. Let's say that I have a favor token from Manuel de Maya, but my opponent decides to go visit him by playing a Manuel de Maya card up here. That means that once he's taken his action, I can take mine because I can actually give up this favor token to follow and do one of the Manuel de Maya actions that's depicted on the board. So having favor tokens can really help you with tempo and with getting things done when you need them right in the moment instead of waiting for your turn. The king, of course, also cuts the ribbon on public buildings, which is awesome because public buildings are the way that you score for the shops that you build over here. So all of your personal building projects happen in this grid, but in order to get bonus points for them, you're actually going to need to place public buildings out. For example, if I were to build this public building, I might want to put it here because then I would be able to score if I had a gold building here or a book building here. I would be able to score the point totals that are at the bottom of the columns that they're in. The other thing that's interesting is that there are multiple opportunities to score for various buildings depending on where the public buildings are placed. So there's a lot of infighting between you and other players over where they should go so that you can get the maximum points for your buildings and other people can't. Those are the basic actions of the game. So yes, the game is complicated and there's a lot going on, but basically there's only 9 things that can actually happen and then a lot of strategizing around those things. So when you play a card, you have 2 choices about where to play it. You can either play it here, as I showed you with the Manuel de Maya card. You can come here and actually directly visit the nobles. That means that you can take one of their small actions and their big one. Your other option, if you don't want to do that or don't have the money to do everything that you want or need to make some money, is to play these cards to your portfolio, which is on your player board. So let's say that I wanted to play this card. Maybe I want some influence because I'm about to ship. What I would do is I would get the bonus or the penalty down here on this card. And then, sorry, this player board is quite delicate. This is the player board, by the way. There's more. I would tuck it under here. And then I have my influence. Or if I wanted to do something with a construction card, I can have a lasting bonus. So for example, I might tuck this card under here. Then I would have a bonus that goes throughout the game. However, there's only so many cards I can have in my portfolio, and that will change as the game goes by. So just for a quick tour of the player board, here's where you keep your goods. Here's where you keep your rubble cubes, which I'll talk about in just a moment. This is where you keep your favorite tokens, your plans, your completed plans, the buildings you'll put out, the officials you can put out, and the bonuses that you have from the cardinal. The only part I haven't touched on yet, which I will briefly, and then we'll talk about solo mode, is there's also a set collection element to this game. When Lisbon was rebuilt, people used the rubble from earlier damage to the city in new building materials in order to kind of reuse what had been destroyed and make new stuff out of it. So you're going to be collecting sets of water, fire, and earthquake damage cubes, which are blue, red, and brown. And as you collect them, you get to remove these cubes and add cards to your portfolio. This also affects the number of goods of each type that you're allowed to have. You start at 2, but you can carry more as the game goes by. The rubble cubes are here, and you remove them as you build buildings, but they also affect the price that you pay to construct the buildings that you want to place in the city. So let's talk about solo mode really quick, which is blissfully simple in this game. Well, as simple as it can be in a game that's complicated. The thing that makes the solo mode work is that you just move your opponent's courtier and then his helper in a fixed rotation along the board. And this is going to determine the actions that he takes and the cards that he picks up. So the AI player, Liz will just automatically move through his actions. But essentially every turn, he'll visit a different noble and do a combination of actions that's based on where his helper is. So if the helper is here, he'll take the bottom action and then this one. If the helper is up here, he'll take the top action and then this one, for whatever noble he's visiting. So you can essentially predict what Lisboa is going to do, which could make it seem like he's a little bit easy, but trust me, because he can do actions so much more easily than you, he doesn't have money or have to draw cards, he still puts up quite a bit of a fight. So that is the quick overview of Lisboa, a game with a lot going on. So now for some final thoughts. I want to say right out that I think Lisboa is a very good game and I really enjoy it. I think the thing that really pushes it over the edge for me is the connection with the historical theme of the game. Not all Euros feel particularly thematic to me, but Lisboa really, really did, in part because so many of the game design elements are really meant to symbolically represent aspects of the aftermath of the earthquake in Lisbon. Vital Lacerda also really helps you see those connections by sprinkling fun little historical asides throughout the rulebook, so you can understand why aspects of the game are the way they are, why he made some of the design decisions that he did, and what your actions really mean in the context of the game. That's something that I really appreciated, and Lisboa is a notably heavy game. It's complicated to learn. I had an easier time because I was able to learn it thematically. Another thing I really appreciate about the game is that they're just really tense, rich choices that you're able to make within the game space. So every action that you do has a larger impact than you would think on other aspects of the game. So the game is so tightly woven together that learning how to work within that system is really enjoyable because you discover something new about it every time you play. So Lisboa is still yielding rewards for me as a gamer, and I appreciate it more every time I revisit it. The other thing I appreciate about Lisboa is that your solo opponent is very easy to operate. So in the solo mode, you play against an AI opponent called Lacerda, and Lacerda's rules are only one page front and back, and they're very streamlined and they're very easy to follow, which is something that I appreciate a lot, given that Lisboa is already a fairly complicated game to learn, and you have to put a lot of work just into your end of things. I think that an overly complicated AI player might have made the game too much to bring out for solo play. That said, having that simplified AI comes with a little bit of a price. It may or may not bother you depending on the kind of solo player you are, but you should know that the AI variant, Lacerda, moves according to a very fixed pattern within the game, which means that you're always going to know what he will do next turn. This gives you some advantages in the game in that you are able to make plans to thwart him as he goes, which makes sense because he's a very powerful opponent and can do actions a lot more easily than you can. The drawback to that, however, is that it takes away the element of surprise. I've also played Lisboa multiplayer, and I really enjoyed just agonizing over what the other players were going to do, and that is something that the solo mode can't quite give you. That said, there are aspects of the solo mode that are clearly designed to compensate for that. So not only is Lacerda a very powerful opponent who can get a lot done in a turn, but there are actual levels of achievement in the solo game. So it's not just about beating the AI for points, which is something that you'll be able to do pretty effectively once you know how to play the game. But there are also achievement levels that push you to push yourself within the game and to be a little bit more efficient and to play a little bit harder. I'm personally at a level in Lisboa where that's still a challenge for me, but I suppose it's possible on multiple plays to get to a point where you feel like the solo mode's kind of finished. My only other quibble with Lisboa is another one that's dependent on what kind of solo player you are. If you're looking for something to just pull out on a work night, set up, take down, very easy, Lisboa is not that game. It is a very large game. I could probably fit both my cats in the box. And there are a whole lot of pieces. There's a lot of setup to do. And then when you're done, there's a lot of takedown and a lot of cleanup to do. So you should be aware of that if this is a potential solo game for you. If you want something that's a lot more easy access, both in terms of setup and in terms of gameplay, then Lisboa may not appeal. If you want the experience of kind of laying out this huge game spread and then just kind of seeing how this really sweeping, complicated game will go, then Lisboa may be a good match. I personally really like it. It's still yielding rewards for me, and I give it an 8 out of 10, which is a Dice Tower seal of approval. Happy gaming.
Thanks so much for watching another Dice Tower video. If you enjoy our videos, subscribe to the channel for more fun, comprehensive board game coverage. Also, consider joining us at one of our events. Come to Dice Tower Retreat, a small, intimate gathering where gaming is king. Join us for Dice Tower Cruise, the largest board game cruise. Attend Dice Tower West in Las Vegas for gaming fun on the West Coast, or Dice Tower East in Orlando in sunny Florida. Dice Tower Conventions, the friendliest gaming conventions on Earth. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower.